Hello there! Today we're talking about being clean, more specifically clean electricity and whether it affects our hi-fi in a positive way. This is getting a little bit awkward, so you toddle off, I'll finish off here and we'll do the review.
Hit me baby one more time, my loneliness just killing me.
You still here? Go away! Now that's better. Today's review is about the Audioquest NIAGARA 1200 power conditioner. Power conditioners. So, some people are sitting there right now going, snake oil, it's really not true. And those people are quite rightfully allowed their point of view. However, I want to give my point of view on this particular power conditioner. Not all power conditioners, just this one. And I get the skepticism, and I thought, do you know what, let's just judge it with my ears and see what it sounds like. What is a power conditioner, first of all? Well, the electricity in our walls, in our sockets, supposedly is a bit dirty. So we've got lots of electronic equipment around the house, you know, mobile phones, things like that, causing interference. And that feeds through into our amplifiers, our sources, such as DACs and streamers, and that makes the noise floor rise up so we don't get as much detail, we don't get as much punch, not as much clarity. That's the idea anyway. And what a power conditioner does is it filters the electronic signal and it makes it clean. And that kind of waveform becomes really nice and smooth and not kind of all jaggedy. And yeah, okay, this is my layman's explanation of something that's quite technical. Now, a lot of you are quite technical, sound engineers, people like that. If you want to give the really technical explanation, please do so in the comments below, and other people can talk tech. That's not my game, but I do appreciate there's a lot more to it than I'm describing here. Okay, so got the Audioquest NIAGARA 1200. Let's have a look at the actual equipment itself. It's quite a heavy looking box. In fact, it's very nicely put together. It's got a premium feel to it. I quite like the finish. But it's quite straightforward. You know, it's got power sockets on the back, obviously, to plug in your equipment. 2 for high voltage, such as a power amp or a subwoofer, or indeed powered speakers, and the rest for your sources, streamers, DACs, etc. There's not much else to say, really. I mean, you plug stuff into it, and you turn it on, and it works. I suppose the only other thing to say is that you do need a power cable to put into the back of it. Audioquest suggests that you use one of their power cables. Of course they would, because they want to sell more power cables. But I've taken their advice and I've bought a relatively budget version of their power cables to work with this. I've got the NRG Z3 going from the wall into the NIAGARA, and I've got the Y3s plugged into my sources. What they're saying with their cables is that it's directional, so it conducts the dirty bit, if you like, away from your equipment back into the mains or wherever, and therefore that's why you've got to use their cables. Now, I didn't test with other cables, I'm sure they'd be fine with it as well, but I just wanted to let you know what I use for my testing. So once you've got everything plugged into it, it's pretty much plug and play. You flip the switch on the side to allow the current through it, and away you go. Turn on your hi-fi equipment and start listening. I've got to say, actually, this is quite a premium piece of kit. It's £900, well, £899 to be precise. So expectations should be relatively high for what it can do in terms of performance. So let's get into that. What does it give you? And does it give you anything at all? Back to the snake oil, it does nothing! Well, I'm pleased to say I do think, in my opinion, it does do something, and those things are as follows. First of all, I think it brings a greater clarity to your system. So I'm certainly hearing a tad more resolution, perhaps in some of the sounds we're coming from the speakers. Certainly there's more separation there as well. Yet what it brings in spades would be additional dynamics. So it's almost like your system has been given a shot of adrenaline, or drunk 7 cans of Red Bull, if you like, because it is super dynamic now. It's pounding out those drum beats, it's really lifting, and that was very noticeable when I tested the NIAGARA 1200. Equally though, what does it not do? So as you might expect, you know, the noise floor would drop and you should hear more detail. Now for me personally, with my testing, I didn't really hear that much more detail. So I wasn't getting that element, although in some reviews, lots of people rave about how they hear things they've never heard before. I didn't quite get that. You also don't get any sort of change of character to your hi-fi system, so it doesn't colour the sound in any way. It keeps the original qualities of the speakers and the equipment you've got. Now actually that's quite a good thing. You want it to be fairly transparent and let everything else do what you've bought the other things to do, and not kind of muck around too much with the mix. It also doesn't excite me very much, I guess. It's one of these components that's quite expensive, so, as I said before, and it's 900 quid. So if I was to buy a £900 pair of speakers, I'd be really excited, really up for it, and wanting to play with them lots and test it and try lots of different angles and get it just right. With this, you stick in the plugs and then you're done. And I think the hardest thing is just trying to justify what it brings to your system and whether you're happy with that £900 spend, and then the additional cost of the power cables on top of that. I mean, even with the basic ones from Audioquest, we're probably pushing over £1,400 worth of equipment just to make this thing work. However, the ultimate test, I suppose, is that I've kept it. I've had it in my system for 3 months. I bought it back in March and it arrived in April, a little bit later because of the coronavirus pandemic. And when it did arrive, I think I was ready to take it back. I took it out very carefully out of the box, made sure I didn't, you know, muck anything up, because in my mind I'm thinking this better be pretty dramatic. And as I said, dynamically it is quite dramatic, and I was on the fence, but when you take it out, you notice that something's missing, and this is when you go into the realms of mad audiophile life, right? So we're willing to pay quite a big premium for maybe 5 or 10% improvement. And I still haven't quite come to terms in my head about how much I spent on this and the level of improvement it's brought. And, you know, to put it this way, if my friends came round to see my hi-fi system, I don't think I'd tell them about this. I certainly wouldn't show it off. I'd almost feel slightly embarrassed to tell them I spent all this money on this piece of equipment, but inside I'd know that it would be better, and that's why it's staying. So this is quite a quick review because it doesn't do a million things, but what it does do, it does very well. And I guess I'm kind of recommending it, but first of all, sort out your speakers, your sources, all of the things that you're happy with. And then when you're getting into power conditioners, I think it's something you look at a bit further down the line, something where you kind of think, all right, I want to just add that 5 or 10% extra. And then you really are going into the craziness of audiophilia. I mean, if my friends were here and I told them about this, they would think that either A, I was minted, which I'm not, or B, I'm mad, which I might be. Yeah, that sums it up. Anyway, end of review. If you like this, please do like and subscribe because it helps us a lot on the channel, and we'll see you back here very soon.